Most creatives stay broke, and it's not because they're bad at what they do, but it's because they believe in this one lie. And until you kill it, you will never grow. Growing up, we're told, just do what you love and you'll get paid. If you grow up playing sports and you become good at it, more power to you. You became the 1% of kids growing up that ends up doing what they love. But for the majority of us, that's not the case. Especially if you're a creative, because you're exploring things, you're exploring painting, you're exploring music, you're exploring video. It's not really a straight path. You don't really figure out what you love doing until you're in your late teens or early 20s, and some people even later in life. The biggest two-edged sword about being a creative is that you are after mastery and not the money. While it's good in one sense, it's terrible in a business sense. So I'm a creative myself, and I know that we stack the skills, the tools, and the talent. But the biggest thing that is in every business is we never learn how to sell. We value our craft over the monetary gains. While I do believe being a creative comes from passion and something that you love, but if you really want to capitalize on it, you have to learn how to run it as a business. And if there's one thing you know about turning your passion into a job, is that you'll hate your passion. I know for photographers and videographers in my space, we all started out doing it because we love it, but at a certain point, it's like, just like anything else, it's work. And sometimes it's better to just have your hobby as a hobby and do it on the side and don't do it full time. Because now for me, it's really hard to make my own content, which I used to love doing for myself. But now it's the other way around. I'm focused on getting clients their videos rather than getting myself videos. It's because now I'm running it like a business and not as a hobby. But to tie it back together, turning your passion into a job is an easy way to kill it. Here's why chasing mastery over money keeps you broke. Clients don't pay for a good video. They pay for the impact of the video. They pay to solve problems, save time, or make money. So you gotta think about it this way. Your work is the vehicle to the destination they wanna get. If you're a graphic designer, you make a cool brand or a cool logo for a business, it's because they wanna seem cool and rebrand and appeal to more people, or just change up and keep up with current times. They don't care about what you use to make the logo. If you use Illustrator, if you use GIMP, if you use Photoshop, they don't care about any of that. So being in videography, clients don't care about what camera you use. If you shoot 422 10-bit, if you shoot at 24 versus 30 frames per second, they don't care about any of that stuff. We fall into this trap of like, this gear will make me better, this gear will make me appeal to more clients, and at the end of the day, that could be further from the truth. They care about what your photo or video is gonna do to their business and how it's gonna drive sales. So for example, for me, instead of saying, hey guys, look, I make cool videos. When I talk to clients and I do outbound and outreach, and when they're saying, oh, what do you do? What do you specialize in? I don't say, I just make cool videos. I say, I help businesses make premium videos so that they can raise more money, right? That sounds way better than saying, hey, I can make cool videos. And that's an easy way for the client to have less risk, because all sales is all about just risk management. They never worked with you. They don't know who you are. When you show them your portfolio and you tell them what you do, you're lessening that risk. And the lower the risk is, the more they're willing to pay you. Talent doesn't always equal higher income, right? That's probably fair to say for basketball or football. The better you are, the more talented you are, the higher your income. And it's just not true when it comes into the creative space. I've seen mediocre people make stupid amounts of money, whereas I've seen very good videographers, very good photographers, people that are really into the craft, really digging into the creative, stay broke and struggle. And I don't really know what it is. That's something in the artistic mindset where you're doing self-fulfillment when you're chasing the mastery and craft area, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you don't want to be broke, you don't want to be struggling and making ends meet, you have to focus on driving sales and getting clients through the door. learn how to sell, because if you're not selling, then you're losing. Every business runs on sales, whether you like it or not. That's just the nature of the beast. That is a fact. That is something you cannot change. That sales moves the business forward. So after sales, next thing we have is positioning. Where are you in the market? Who are the clients you're trying to get? And also think about, how are your clients getting their money? If you're shooting with someone that makes, I don't know, $1,000 a week, they're not gonna wanna pay their whole week's worth for a video, right? So that's where you gotta think about, where do you wanna position yourself in the market? And my favorite way to position yourself is using the Elon Musk or Tesla method, where you sell a high premium service that can give you a runway to do other things. So for example, Tesla, he sold his Tesla Roadster. That was like the first car, I think it was like $100,000. And then he had the Model S, which is a tier lower, and then the Model Y, which is another tier lower, and then finally, lastly, the economy car, the Model 3. So having a lot of investment up front gives you a big runway to do other things, and it gives you a big safety net. And the third most important thing after sales positioning is understanding what the client needs from your work. So you have to understand what your creative is gonna do for the client. Is it a part of a marketing campaign? Is it part of a rebrand? You have to think about what the client is gonna want from it. And once you understand that, you're gonna be able to make so much money, it's ridiculous. And that's where specializing in a niche is very important. I would say pick one niche when you first start off, because once you know what the client wants before they could even tell you, because you know their struggles, you know their pain points, and you know what they want before they even say it, you've already sold them. They're already gonna buy your product. And if they're talking to you on the phone, they're pretty much almost always ready to buy. And as you go through this process, you're gonna have to make that switch going from a creative to a business person if you wanna survive as a creative. I learned that the aesthetics is actually like the last little bit. So you're gonna have to learn and retrain your mind to talk about outcomes rather than aesthetics. How do you do that? It's simple. You start by leading with questions like, what is the goal of this? And once you start with the end goal, you can reverse engineer everything from the very beginning. So that way you have a clear roadmap to work with. So the biggest thing that's changed my business is building around offers rather than deliverables. It's easy to start with deliverables because you're like, all right, it's very tangible, 10 photos and 10 reels for X amount of dollars. That's pretty easy to talk about and sell. And that's very tangible for both parties. So what I like about building around an offer is that it just sounds more impactful. So for example, let's say, hey, when we make a video, you're 300 times more likely to convert a potential client into a paying client versus, hey, I make 10 reels and it costs X amount of dollars. What sounds more impactful, right? What sounds more like, like that's what I want? It's gonna be the first one. It's gonna be centered around the offer. Or if I help with, branding, this is how I can help you charge twice as much for the same product versus, oh, if you want a branding call, it's gonna be, $100 an hour, right? That doesn't sound, it's like, okay, there's a transaction there. There's a easy, tangible transaction, but what sounds more powerful and what sounds more impactful? That's gonna be centered around the offer, because it's true. Like if you hop on a call or if you do a video with me, those are all factuals. That is, you're not lying. You're not just like pulling numbers out of your ass. That's the hard, cold truth. And once you're able to build around offers rather than deliverables, that's when you're actually gonna blow up, because you're gonna be making way more sales, number one. You're gonna be able to sell, returning customers at a higher price. This is gonna be a 20-30% increase, because not only can you sell at a higher price, you can even resell those clients at a higher price. So it's just a compounding effect. So once you fix that, you have to make a switch into upselling yourself. Instead of saying, hey, I make videos. No, I provide strategy, I provide clarity, branding, and a premium feel, which is true because it's very rare that I don't pick up from clients. Like Even when I'm on a shoot, you know, if we have some downtime or it's very chill, like I'll usually text them right then and there or give them a call just because I want my clients to feel like they can reach out to me anytime, which they can, you know, after a certain time. Like I block myself after 6, but as soon as I wake up, you know, 4 or 5 in the morning, I send them a text right away. That way they're just like, whoa, this guy is like on top of his shit. So the second biggest way I started charging more is by having an anchor price. So I start with the price as if I had unlimited budget. There were no rules, no budget. The possibilities were limitless. A shoot could cost $10,000, which it probably won't, you know, so that's kind of just like the client's like, what the hell, like 10K, I'm not trying to do all that. And then I have my second price, and then I have the price that I ideally would want to get paid. So let's say my anchor price, you know, this varies depending on project to project. You know, you can't charge like one video, you know, for a small business like 10K, like they're just not gonna do that. But let's say I have like a medium-sized business, right? And I start with the price of 10K for a set of videos. And then my second price would be, you know, $5,000, which is half off. And then I have my ideal price, which is right around 3K, you know, for a one-man team, which is very easy for me to do. I can do the filming, the editing, and then all the setup just all by myself within half a day. When you structure your pricing like that, you know, $3,000 doesn't sound as bad as $10,000. So just have your anchor price, you know, have your anchor price that no one would probably buy, have your middle price, and then have the price you want to get paid at. And a little bonus tip, don't be afraid to send the number, because there's times where I've undercharged and undervalued myself. I've told a client, hey, it's gonna cost 3 grand, and they're like, oh, it's actually not that bad. And oh my God, the regret within that split second, right after I said that number, was so bad. I was like, bro, I could have probably charged these people like, you know, 2 grand, 3 grand more, but I just didn't because I was afraid and undervalued myself. So let's summarize this video. Talent does not equal income. Value equals income. So once you change your mindset to that, it's not about your mindset, it's about how you set your mind. All right, I'm just messing around now, but it's true. You need to have the outcome or the income. But that's gonna be it for this video. If you want, you know, a topic or have any questions, comment down below and I would love to reach out back to you guys.